But how are you? Meriseni?
No, we are good. Enjoying every moment. Chingodaru.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Without wasting much time, love bundles depleted, navigating a loveless marriage. And Lewa was just talking to me about the oxymoron of it. We're in marriage, but then you're loveless. How is that so? Yeah, talk to us.
Unosvika pachikamu chokuti bhandu rapera raexpire. Hapasina love iri kuuya, hapasina love yauri kusenda back as well. These are things that actually happen in relationships. There are seasons like that, but we need to look at why that happens and why do we get how do we end up in that scenario where we are not able to receive or to give love. So yes, I've heard a lot of people question me kuti zvinoitika here pastor kuti unonzwa kuti hauchada munhu, it's not like how it was kudhara, you know, like more like mabhando atopera zvechokwadi
kuti hauchatomunzwiri like zvato empty,
you know,
mabhandos like atopera kuti like you're trying to go on Instagram, I've squeezed
exactly. Kana kuti munhu wako unyanzwa kuti panapa munhu wangu neni takatorasana, munhu achidzoka so hamusimbofilana kana, you know, and most of these people, they actually come back home after vamboita hotspotting somewhere else, data rovha rapera. You know, when they get back home, they have no data. They've been hotspotting everyone, they've been flirting with everyone at work or wherever, maseko zavanenge vari, and then when they get home, they've nothing to offer to give to their spouse.
Love your metaphor. Senge ye lunchbox yekuti lunchbox chakati, but then asimune yekuti munhu anga achi hotspota kumwe panozosvika data ra exhausted apachina
choku hotspota umwe munhu futi antinge atori nechine background data iri on. Hausaramboti pengwa nedata zvokuti unoenda uchipengera mama-service providers.
Yes.
What's happening? Data rinya rigare nechiende, and they will just show you kuti your background data is on. Pane data ringe chingodyiwa masurumu. Tuma background data itoto weekend twakafanira tumwe tuma relationships tunozopindwa nevamwe vanhu tusingazikanwa uku tuchitokupedza love yacho. Paunozoka kukumba, there's nothing because of your associates and other people that you're relating to, and you're giving that love to them. So background data ngaimbodzimwa so that we don't deplete our love bundles. You know, love is a precious commodity that can either appreciate or depreciate. So we need to look at it like that, because it's a precious commodity, and we need to be checking on it. Is it growing or is depleting? Because if you don't check on it, it will deplete, and before you know it, there's no love. You are actually in a marriage, but you are not in love. So weekend, it's possible for one to be in a marriage and they are not in love. It is possible. You can actually go for 20 years, 30 years. Uri marriage, urimo, you go to tirimo, but urimupi macho marriage ere kana kuti mulove. So a number of people are actually in marriage, but they are not in love. They don't know what love is. Vakapesera kuudzwa ndinokuda, I don't know how many years back. Vakapesera kuratidzwa love many years back. So it's very important for us to understand that love can actually deplete. Love is a very precious commodity that can either depreciate or appreciate. And we need to be very intentional about making sure that our love for each other appreciates. There are things that you need to do. And you also need to understand that love actually evolves. And at every stage, you need to understand what must I be doing. It evolves. Kana muri pa dating pipe, there's mostly infatuation. Pampacha I still love chacha is puppy love, or some call it infatuation. I still love chacha zokudaro, and then it evolves. Then you also have a love bubble. You're in a love bubble.
You know, like it's a love bubble.
You know, like it's a say
the honeymoon phase. Oh, so beautiful.
Then of course later on, the later stage will be your intentional love, where you are saying, you know what, munhu wangu nema issues ake, nema mistakes ake, nezva anoita neumboko wake, ndongo muda akadaro.
Intentional love.
Intentional. Yokutofunga, where you make a decision. And this is what we encourage those people that are married. Kuti, love is not something that you can pray about. Kuti mwari ndibatsire kuda mudzimai wangu, kana mwari ndibatsire kuda vana vangu or kuda vabereki vangu. No, you make a decision because God gave you the right to make your own choice, not free will, to make your own decisions on whether to pursue certain relationships or not. So it's very important for you to make a decision. Don't wait for feelings to come. Like I always say, weekend, kuti ndizoda munhu, let me wait for the feelings. No, you make a decision and then feelings will catch up with you later.
my feelings
anozojoina
anozouya
if you make a decision anouya anozongotera aona kuti munhu aruda munhu wake, then before you know it you are conditioning yourself to whatever mistakes or whatever zvinoita munhu iyo zvausinganyanye kufarira, but watanga wamake a decision to say I want my person and I love my person. For instance, Weekend, if you call your husband, I'm sure you've heard me speak about this, if you call him honey, even asatatumba hani wacho ari kuvala zvokuvava zviya, you know, member inogona kutozongonyara ega yotanga kuita unhu hwechihani because yauzongonzi uri hani. Like the Bible teaches us to call things that are not as though they are.
Alright.
You know, unotomuti hana
ochero vanhu uchiona kuti bhangu
uchiona ndi bhangu otanga kutomuti dedi garaine apa, even ari bhangu hakuna kumupushira kunze, tombomuti dedi, umboona kuchinja kwaanoita hunhu unotochinja otanga kuita hunhu hwadedi handiti. So it's a decision that you have to make. There's also the issue unconditional love, because a lot of people understand it kuti kune chinhu unconditional love, but they don't understand kuti unconditional love iyoyo ine ma-conditions ainayo. I don't know if that makes sense, but ine
ma-conditions. Yes. Unconditional, but it has conditions.
Even when I saw my wife, Pastor Glory, and when I saw her, there are certain things that I saw that were in her that were not in other women. Those are the conditions. Those are ndakada paari izvozvo. So if she then willfully takes out those things or ceases to become that person, then I'm left in a place where I'm going to struggle to love or to connect with that person.
What drew you to her with those qualities?
Yes.
To say this person can be my wife and I can do this thing called life with her, or this person can be my husband.
Yes.
So they are the conditions.
Those are the conditions. So ukazvitarisa unogona kutoona kuti unconditional love inogona kunge isitoripo kana kuti itori kure kure. We love our people because of certain conditions, certain things that we saw in them, certain things that attracted us to them. That's why I always say kuti Weekend ukasangana nemunhu wako achikuona une wig, then mangopinda murelationship watobvisa wig here, that could be fraud. Itombomubvunza kuti shama toita sei, tombofamba naye here wig kana tachada handiti kutobva watotanga kuti ndapinda murelationship saka hapana, you know, I won't take care of myself anymore. So you can't just say to someone you have to put up with me no matter what I do, because kune chinchonzi unconditional love. That's unfair. That won't work, because true love must continue. Kana pane respect and also the right attitude. Kote attitude yokuti you just have to put up with me nezvandingori izvozvo.
Pane my expectation nevanhu vari married kuti no, because you chose me you just have to accept me as I am.
Ndigamuchire ndakadaro. And I've also said this to my singles kuti you really need to make sure that the conditions are right so that you are lovable. Because nobody loves nonsense. Tirangodzana chokwadi chiri straight kuti hapana da nonsense. So you have to fix up yourself, make sure that you're the right person that you would want to go out with iwe pachako.
Usikatogadzisa maera.
Zvigadzirise.
Okay.
Titogadzisa nyika tienda handiti. So marriage inogona kunge itoripo, but love yakatoshamura kudhara, mabundles akatodeplete. And that's what we call a loveless marriage. And zviriko. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't really take stock with what is happening now. At what stage are we? Do we have enough love? Do we have enough bundles? But there are times when you are actually at that level where there's no love. So when you take stock of what is happening in your relationship, you do what we call a relationship audit, and you see you then act, you are intentional. Remember I said that the love that we're looking for is that intentional love where you actually make a decision to say, I'm going to love my person, I'm going to do this. It's really very important. So a loveless marriage is, you know, that kind of a setup. You are there, but there's no love. You can feel it. Your needs are being, are going unmet. Your needs are going unmet. You could be heading towards that loveless marriage. And also conflict is also lots of conflicts. Our relationship, conflict is building up. Exactly.
Teaspoon kutorambana.
Of course, because and then that conflict actually escalates. And most people because skills de-escalate the conflict, but we let small things escalate, become big things. A lot of people akarambana nasi, it started really a small thing. So very important, let's be intentional about all this. So a loveless marriage is a relationship where one or both partners do not feel the love. One anongofila pana about ndingodonza ndega panapa. Remember, I'm involved in all this. That is now a loveless relationship, and you begin to see isolation. Munako avoid a company things like that, and resentment. Of course, there's also hopelessness. A personal hope in this thing, the marriage, because there's no love. So that's what a loveless marriage is all about. I want to give us a scenario, or rather an illustration, which is very important. I take this from our Lord and Master Jesus Christ. He would teach with my parables. Love is like a bucket. I want to share with you this scenario or this illustration. I call it the love bucket. I use this when I'm doing my mentorship programs, helping couples understand what they're in and what they can do to improve their relationships or to repair their relationships. So, Pana, I told you the love bucket. You need to grasp this illustration because it will help you. It will explain a lot of questions where you have issues. So, munwese ane love bucket. Munwese anda kudiwa ane love bucket, and that love bucket must be filled. If it's filled to the brim, then that person can actually be in a right state of mind because they're being loved and they feel no one owes them anything. They're being loved, they're in a safe zone, and the relationship is right. It's a healthy relationship. So everyone has a love bucket, and that love bucket needs to be filled up, and it starts from dating. Kuti inenge itozadzwa. That's when one actually makes a decision whether to get married to that person or not, because they are seeing that their needs are being met, their bucket is being filled, my expectations are they're being met. So everyone has a love bucket. And that love bucket starting from dating stage kumwe kwacho kutakurwa kana handbag zvinogona kuti utangoda munhu wako because munhu ane mutsa anonitakura handbag. They're actually filling up that love bucket. Kumwe kwacho kungofonerana kwatinge chingoita papa during dating, you're actually filling up that love bucket. It's just when we were dating back then, you just call for 2, 3, 4 hours uri pa phone and mchingobvunzana zvisana basa rese tumubvunzo nando saka ruite saka rudye shishi, things like that.
Love bucket
richitozara kusvika pakuti razara rakupfachukira. Let's now take this relationship to the next level. Let's now get married. Let's stay together now. So everyone has a love bucket. It is very important for us to take note of that. So that love bucket rename attribute my feelers, and at the same time kune zvimwe zvinodraina futi kune attribute my drainers. So what then fills up that bucket? That's very important. That's the question that we need to respond to today, so that we don't get or remain at that place where we feel we are not being loved, or we are in a loveless marriage, or we are in a marriage but we are not in love. So there are things that fill up that love bucket. Okay. You've got a love bucket, your wife has a love bucket, your husband is a love bucket, your children have their love buckets too. So you need to be very intentional about filling up those love buckets. That's your number one role. That's why the Bible says, in other words, the Bible is saying that fill up their love buckets. Put in stuff in there, fill up their love buckets. And I've always said this as well, marriage is an empty, it's an empty thing. It's an empty box.
Yeah.
There's nothing. So you don't get into marriage expecting to receive or to get stuff out of marriage, stuff that you haven't actually deposited into that box. So you've got to be intentional about making deposits into that box. So likewise, even with the love bucket, you've got to fill it up. So ask yourself the question, when last did I fill up when last did I put in at least a few drops into that love bucket in dzimai wangu?
Kana kuti uri kungodraina.
Pampacho tape yacho yakatotemwa all very important. We still need to fill up the bucket. These fillers that we're talking about, these are things that your partner used to do while you were dating. So it's very important sometimes to actually revisit such times, have discussions around that. But I data, this is what we'll do and all that. It is very important. So let's look at that, so that we can learn what kind of fillers do we need. Then there are also fillers that were never done at all. But as you grow in life, you then realize that ichi ndochifarira ichi handichide. So you should be able to communicate those new feelings or those new likes. I think ndine kama ka hobby kana nditu mutu andofara twakadai. We always talk about love maps. It's always important for you to be in touch with your partner's love maps. My love maps kuziva kuti munhu wako zvii zvaanofarira zvii zvaasingafarira. It's as simple as that. So some of the love feelers or feelers that will fill up your bucket, things like quality time chaichayo, quality time, kungopedza time muri mese, you know. And when we say quality time, haisi nyaya yekugara pasi muchitongesana muchitaura nyaya dzisingaite dzisinganakidza muri mukoti. Ngatigare pasi tingotaura nyaya dzisina basa rese. You don't need to come up with an agenda kuti tifa kutaura nezvakati. No, kungogara kana kungomira pasi pemuti uya muchingotana zvenyu mashizha, muchingoita zvamada muchitaura zvenyu muchingonakidzwa. So quality time is very important. Like I said, muchingotaura kuti nyaya tisina nebasa rese. That's what people do when they want to fill up their love bucket. And remember, it's not for a counselor, a marriage counselor, to do this for you or your pastor or whoever. You do this on your own. You can't just turn up to a counselor and say, we're no longer friends, so what do we do? You've got to be intentional about becoming friends again. Invest in time, quality time. Then there's also issue of affection. Affection. Munyatsocinzwisisa here kati chiti affection
vana vamwene
affection haifa kusvika kumapena kunzi ndokwazvifa kupera. No, kungoda munhu wako pasina kwazviri kuenda, kungomudza kuti ndinokuda, kungomubata ruoko pasina kwazviri kuzonoperera. I'm sure ndataura pachikuru.
Yes.
So affection is very important, and it must also go both ways. Vanasikana nesuwo varume toda kudiwa, toda kutoudzwa kunzi ndinokuda. Ndikaudzwa ndogona kutobudisa musodzi. That's how we love it so much, kuudzwa kunzi tinokuda. So affection must go both ways, and then there's also adoration. Because pamwe pacho tunoita kakujairirana, but it's important for you to also take note of, you know, the effort that your partner is putting in, the work that they're putting in. Pamwe auya adzoka ane hairstyle nyuwani kana kuti aita makeup yake zvabuda. You know, it's important for you to then to tell them, to appreciate them, and to tell them how much you adore them. You've got to do that. Remember, I said this is a decision that you make. You don't wait for them to be perfect on what they're doing, but you start by encouraging them, taking note of whatever small steps they're taking. Is also very important. And of course, recreation weekend, having fun. It will not fill up that bucket. We need to actually schedule fun. Because you know so if you don't schedule fun, and when we say fun, pastor, we can't afford to go and have fun, but you can still have fun. You can do. So then there's also thoughtful gestures, like kuti wangofunga moyo wako uri kupfuura nemupaki wangoona uruva, you can't afford to go kunotenga maruva anodhura, but wangoona rimwe ruva rimusango, the fact yekuti wamufunga at that particular time ukamunzira ruva iroro, she will love you and she will appreciate that. So it's very important for us to also bring in these thoughtful gestures. Like in my case, ini ndonyatsozikanwa nzikana vanhu vadanyatskudemonstrata love yavo pandiri. Kumba kwedu ndikangoitirwa mbambaira chete weekend, kubikirwa mbambaira kana ngonzirwa maputi kana maputi, any form of maputi, whether chibage chida kukangwa, you would have made my day. So those are like the thoughtful gestures that we're talking about. Small things that don't cost you much, but munhu achizviona uchizviita kana kuti wamuitira anobva afunga kuti sure munhu anga achindifunga throughout the day to the extent yekuti anditengera zvakati kana kuti andiitira zvakati. So we need to do that, and we also need to support each other's interests. My interests are techipesuwa and all that. So if you're going to fill up my love bucket, be interested in what I'm interested in, be interested in what I'm doing. And of course, weekend as we round up, tinema drainers atiri kutaura, angaita vanzi pane maburi anozoita pasi pebucket. Those are the drainers that we're talking about. And many times, sadly, those big holes then are bigger than the tape that's filling up the bucket. Is a problem. So we need to make sure that we don't let those holes develop. Unfortunately, because of time, we can't look at all those drainers, but I'm hoping that next week we'll look at those love drainers, those holes that then drain the water that we are pouring into this love bucket. Would want to look at that next week.
We need to. Thank you so much, Pastor Simba Holoza. Your contact details for those who want to reach you.
Come through to me via WhatsApp 0773 000 000. Please send me your name, your marital status, and your town. 0773 000 000.
Thank you so much, Pastor Simba Holoza. Star FM sounding good all the time. Back with you tomorrow. Remember to pray, to keep trusting God, keep believing tomorrow belongs to God.